Our next two speakers are Colin Mackenzie, the former curator of Chinese art at the Art Institute of Chicago, and he will be followed by Zeng Pan, the director of the Department of Exhibitions from the Hubei Provincial Museum. Colin?
Thank you for that introduction, and I would like to congratulate the Asian Art Museum of San Francisco and the Hubei Provincial Museum for assembling such an amazing landmark exhibition that has, yes, absolutely. These two ancient states, Chu is well known in Chinese history, Zeng was virtually unknown, but both were unknown outside of China until this exhibition. So this will go down in history as one of the landmark exhibitions of Chinese art. Interest among archaeologists and specialists in Chinese culture in Chu began in the 1930s when clandestine diggings in the region of Changsha. Well, you can see Changsha down there. These diggings unearthed strange carved wood figures with antlers and with long extended tongues. And these, to some people at least, seem to confirm these cryptic references in ancient Chinese philosophical and historical texts that Chu was in some way distinct, and we have a different view that Professor Bagley has put forth, suggesting that we have to be very cautious about making these distinctions. But since the founding of the People's Republic in 1949, Chinese archaeologists have worked tirelessly to excavate thousands of tombs around the Chu capital, what we know to be one of the later Chu capitals, at Jinanchang, and then to the east of the Han River, the tombs of the Zhang state, which was virtually unknown before. Yeah, here we see on the left-hand side is a small jade plaque, or possibly a pendant. It consists of two birds standing above a mask-like form, two eyes. It's, as you can see, it's been fashioned with the details in raised relief, in so-called thread relief, thin lines. This was executed by grinding away the background to leave these thin lines in relief. And it's characteristic of the Shijiahe culture that flourished in the Chu region round about 2000 BCE. I should point out to clarify to those of you who are unfamiliar with jade, Chinese jade, and I suspect that you're all familiar with it, that what we're looking at and what we're going to be talking about in this, in my talk, is nephrite, not jadeite. Jadeite is the bright green stone that you see carved into jewelry in the stores in Hong Kong and in China. But that was imported from Burma, the stone, the material, and wasn't really used in China, and well, wasn't used in China until the 18th century and mainly the 19th century. So forget jadeite, we're talking about nephrite. And nephrite is a hard stone. It's not as hard as diamond or other precious stones, and even quartz is harder than it. But it's harder than steel. And I have actually tried to scratch a piece of jade, not a piece in the exhibition, not a carved jade, not an ancient jade, just a chunk of jade with a pin, and it actually made no impression whatsoever. That proves the point that it is a very intractable material, and the challenges faced by jade craftsmen were really very difficult indeed. The drawing on the right is of another jade in the Palace Museum. It's on provenance, but you can see that stylistically and thematically it's much the same. A bird standing over a face or a head, which in this case is in profile. And this theme recurs in jades associated with Zeng and later with Chu as well. But the first example of this hybrid bird-human or humanoid combination actually comes from a tomb that has nothing to do with Chu and nothing to do with the Shijiahe culture. It's around about 1200 BC, and it was a tomb of a local ruler whose tomb included many, many bronzes and also this remarkable piece. And you can see that there's a short chain of links that we'll come back to and discuss later. But for the time being, you can see the bird beak, the eyes, and an ear, what seems to be a human ear, and then bent arms and the squatting posture, but also a wing with feathers down below. We move on now to the 10th century BCE and the tomb of the Zeng ruler at Yejiashan. And you can see that on the right-hand side, you've got a composite figure of a bird with a bird's beak, a normal bird's beak, and then below, a bird figure with this strange head in profile. You might think it looks a bit like a dragon head, but I think in reality, it's our humanoid head. You've got the C-shaped ear here, which you find over here, much more clearly that of a human or humanoid face, and then very abbreviated wing and tail there, and this tall, finely striated crest. And on the left, this is a later example from the 8th century BCE, also from a Zeng tomb. And once again, this wonderful crest, the wing of the bird. This is probably the tail, and we're not quite sure what this is. This is the leg, I guess. And then the rolled snout, the C-shaped ear, and the eye here. We'll come back to this theme once again, this hybrid, these hybrid figures combining bird, human, and humanoid. Fast forward to the tomb of the Marquis Yi of Zeng, who was interred around about 433 BC, no later than that. And Professor Bagley has already given us a very clear overview of the tomb and its contents. Here you see the Marquis Yi's coffin, the outer coffin. Inside of it was an inner coffin, and we've already seen that there were jades placed on the coffin and within the coffin as well. And I'm just going to look at a few of these jades and try and work out whether there's anything distinctive about them that one wouldn't find in a jade from a northern tomb. And this slide here shows the pair of dragon pendants from the Marquis Yi's tomb, and then a very similar dragon pendant from a tomb in northern or central China, the Zhou area. So really, no difference worth talking about. Another pendant that was discussed by Professor Bagley is a little bit different. It's in open work. It has this sort of frilly open work, almost a filigree-like effect, and beautifully detailed. And this profuseness of decoration echoes in an indirect way the bronze, the open work that we find on bronzes, on a few bronzes from the tomb, and also on earlier Chu bronzes as well. You can see the bodies of the dragon. There's the head, the snout, another one here. There's the leg, And there seems to be another leg that is morphs into a bird, the little hook beak here, and then a snake behind it. And these combinations turn up in Chu wood carving. We see them very frequently, including in the wonderful screen from Zhou in the exhibition. So go and have a look at that. And there's birds, snakes, a frog, and a deer all combined in that screen. This is a wonderful piece, but it pales in comparison with this piece, also in the exhibition. And most of the jades I'm going to illustrate are in the catalog. They're not all in the exhibition. You can see here the dragon, two dragons, and their tails morph into bird heads. And you've actually even got the wing of the bird here. Here's a detail. And unlike the dragons in the previous piece, we're shown the heads now in plan, so they look rather different. They're the same dragons, but just viewed from above rather than in profile. Really a beautiful detailing, very fine detailing, the scales of the dragon, and then the bird wing here, the feathers of the bird wing. Remember that this is enlarged many, many times over. So it's a real virtuoso work of jade carving. But it's also puzzling because of these links. There are 3 links, and one of them is actually free moving, so you can actually move it. I haven't had the chance to do that. But I was intrigued by how this was done. It seemed to be a very, very difficult process to make a link that interlocks with another piece. So I decided that I was going to try and do it myself. I started out with jade, but I realized it would take me 100 years, so I went to a softer material, balsa wood. And you can see the stages, drawing it out on a block of balsa, carving it away with a fine saw blade, and then getting to this stage, and cutting around the outside with the saw blade was easy enough. But then the inner cut, the final cut, so to speak, defeated me using one of these, and there was no way of doing it. And I had to resort to an abrasive cord, which you can see in this image here. And sawing away, pulling either side the loop. It took me about an hour and a half to do it in balsa wood. The other side I didn't complete. I'll hand it around later, and you can see whether you can complete the cut. But what this exercise showed me was that perhaps conceptually it wasn't quite as difficult as I had imagined. It was still very, very difficult, and of course I wasn't really attempting in jade. So it's really a remarkable virtuoso work. But it also pales into insignificance when compared with this. Any idea how long this is? A guess? Well, I'll tell you, 19 inches long. So just imagine if it had been carved, I shouldn't use the word carved, but I'm going to, from one block of jade, a huge block of jade. But actually, it's not. It's made from a number of separate pieces, which are then linked together. And so these rings, these ring links, are actually C rings. They're not O rings. They're not joined. And if you look at the back of the piece, you can see the way that they've been joined. The two pieces to be joined were fitted into the open C ring, and then a tenon, a jade tenon, was then inserted to close the ring and convert it from a C ring to an O ring. And you can see it in the drawings here. So this was an amazing display of ostentatiousness. And so it begs the question, raises the question, why? Well, the Marquis Yi bronzes are for display. They're amazingly profuse with decoration, and so maybe this was the equivalent in jade. We've seen this piece, our little red man, red birdman up on the right, which was made in a very soft stone. It's number 2 on Mohs scale of hardness, whereas nephrite is 6.5 even to 7. Could that have been the inspiration? Well, maybe. But we do know that chains were made in bronze. They were cast in bronze to join the lids to the bodies of the vessel. Such linked ornaments in jade are extremely rare. The scholar Jenny So, I think, has counted 7 of them, including one from a northern sacrificial pit. But it's very much a poor relation of the Marquis Yi pieces. We move on now rapidly, I hope, to jades from the Chu tombs at Xiongjiazhong, near just to the northwest of the Chu capital at Jingzhou. And the main tombs, pardon me, have not been excavated, but it's believed that they had been robbed in antiquity. You can see them in the slide to the right, and they're believed to be those of a Chu ruler. But the accompanying tombs, which were filled with the bodies of course, now disintegrated, of attendants, concubines, musicians, etc., mainly female, have yielded 2,000 jades, a huge number of jades. And so we have a pretty good idea of what those jades were like. And specialists in Chu jade have identified this morphing of dragon parts into bird heads as one of the recurrent features. You see them here, here, here. The little eye is the giveaway, and even an upside-down one here. I don't know whether you can see the eye, but I can guarantee you it's there. This combination does occasionally occur in jades from the north. It's certainly not as common. But the next theme, as far as I know, is unique to this set of tombs. And you can see a man holding onto the body of a dragon. In the top slide, there's a circle, a disc on top of his head, which may represent the bee disc mentioned in literature and associated with the worship of heaven. I think we have to be a bit cautious about accepting that interpretation. And then the lower one may be that of a woman, because there are 2 dots here which may indicate female breasts. Certainly that's possible. And then the right, a large dragon with a standing man. And part of the dragon is transformed into a bird head there. And on we go. And this combination is paralleled in Chu lacquerware. This is a fragment of a lacquered musical instrument from a 4th century BCE tomb. And you can see a figure here holding a staff or a scepter. It looks as though he's commanding a dragon. And then this figure here, very strange figure, seems to have almost a bird head holding on to 2 dragon bodies. On the left is a painting from a tomb in Changsha, and it shows a woman, and you can't see very clearly, but in front of her there's a phoenix and a dragon. And so one might interpret this actually as representing the occupant of the tomb, the female occupant, and her aspiration that her soul, the Hun, might float up to heaven in the company of a dragon and a phoenix. This painting here, also from Changsha, is even more remarkable because it shows a man riding on a dragon chariot, and you can see the parasol above him. And it brings to mind a passage in a poem, a famous poem, Encountering Sorrow, attributed to the poet Chu Yuan, who was a noble of the Chu state. And it describes a sort of magical journey through the heavens. The protagonist seems to be the poet himself. And as you can read, it's about him teaming up with jade, dragons, and accompanied by the bird that hides the sky and waiting on winds to fleetly fare upward. We're going to look briefly at two jades from the tombs at Zhou, which the tombs described very clearly by Professor Bagley. The first one is a remarkable, strange jade, which is in the exhibition. You can find it in one of the wall cases. It's small and very thin, but definitely worth going to look at and peer at. Use your iPhones to take close-ups of it. And you can see, once again, this bird man, this face with a bird beak, wings, but squatting human or humanoid legs. And what you can't see in this slide, but is there, is the fact that there's a dragon involved on the front, and the body goes round onto the back, and you can see what seems to be a little snake head here. It's very strange. We don't know what this was used for. It seems to be have been a reworking of some other jade. It's got a strange cross-section to it as well. But it does have parallels in Chu wood carving and lacquer work. The side on the right, it's a composite sculpture in the exhibition. At the top is a human figure with a bird mask or a bird head, bird face, standing on a phoenix, which in turn stands on a frog. And as Dr. Zhang has pointed out, the toad is depicted in Chinese mythology as living in the moon. And it is illustrated in one funerary banner from the Han Dynasty. So there are definitely connotations, and it seems to be references to some sort of deity or supernatural figure that Dr. Zhang has actually talked about. Finally, a jade that brings us a full circle. You can see this is from Zhou. It's two birds facing each other with open work here, and it echoes very closely the outline of a tiger mask from the Shijiahe culture of almost 2,000 years earlier, 1,500 years earlier. So some jade like that must have come into the possession of this craftsman, or more likely his master, who said, look at this, carve something similar. He probably didn't realize that it was a tiger mask. You can see the apertures for the eyes here, and so just playfully reinterpreted it as a couple of birds. So in the synopsis to my talk, I said I was going to talk about jades in Western collections. And I trawled through quite a few, but didn't come up with really any, apart from this piece, that I could say with almost 100% certainty is a true jade. Its outline is very similar to an excavated jade, and you can see these little bird heads with the eyes. The way the surface is detailed is also very similar to the jades from Zhou. So the answer to my question that I posed to myself, is there a Chu-Zeng Jade style? Is it myth or reality? And I think the truth lies somewhere in between. Thank you very much.
The pentatonic of Marquis Yi of Zeng was unearthed in 1978 by scientific archaeological excavations at the tomb of Marquis Yi of Zeng site in Suzhou, Hubei province, China. They were court bronze musical instruments used by a ruler named Yi of the Zeng state. The bells date back to around the 5th century BCE, about 2400 years ago. They are now housed and displayed to the public at the Hubei Provincial Museum. The pentatonic of Marquis Yi of Zeng are composed of 3 types: Yongzheng, Niuzheng, and Bo, totaling 65 bells. There are 3,755 characters of inscriptions on the bells and their racks, systematically documenting the musical theory knowledge of that time. The bells are the set of fixed-pitch instruments, with each bell capable of producing 2 tones, thus resulting in a total of 130 musical notes, ranging from C2 to D7. The fixed positions on the bells include inscriptions for historical records, pitch markings, and musical theory. The record inscriptions mark the owner of the bells and related historical events. According to the instructions of the pitch inscriptions, strike the front and side of the bells can produce the musical notes corresponding to the inscriptions. And the relationship between the pitch is harmonious, in major thirds. Or minor thirds. The musical theory inscriptions detail the musical theory knowledge of the time and serve as a memorandum of the musical literature mastered by the courts of the vassal states. The content includes the pitch system, twelve-tone pitch system, interval, and scale. Tonality. As an example, inscription describes the front tone of number 10 bell in group 3 of middle rack as the 5th tone G in scale of C, the 6th tone Yu in scale of B flat, which is 1/2 tone lower, biansheng, than the 2nd tone sheng in scale of F sharp. These tones are similar to the Lydian scale in the Western church modes. The sound of the well-preserved pentatonic of Marquis Yi of Zeng faithfully retains the musical information of that time. The sound and inscriptions correspond meticulously, coexisting to form an integrated archive of musical document with sound and text. There is no similar document for the same period globally known to exist. It serves as a comprehensive summary of musical theory and practice from the 5th century BCE.
Today, I want to talk about the development of the pitch series about early Chinese bells. Professor Robert Begley discussed the importance of the bells of the orange of the chromatic scale in China in his article, Ancient Chinese Bells and the Orange of the Chromatic Scale. I fully agree with Professor Begley's interpretation about the inscriptions on the bells of Marquis Yi of Zeng, as well as his emphasis on the importance of the pentatonic pitch series, referred to as regular pitch series, 正声, 五正声, in Chinese traditional literature. In the following sections, I will briefly analyze the inscriptions on the bells of Marquis Yi of Zeng to respond to this point. The origin of the pentatonic pitch series can be traced back to before 1000 BCE, may be contentious based on the current archaeological evidence, at least in the case of fixed pitch instruments like bronze bells and stone chimes. I will now provide some recent archaeological findings to illustrate this. If the pentatonic pitch series did not emerge around 600 years before the bell of Marquis Yi of Zeng, we may ask, how did the pentatonic pitch series originate? How did it develop into the chromatic pitch series? My discussion today will center around these questions. First of all, I'd like to clarify the usage of several terms. Music can be divided into two categories: vocal music and instrumental music. I will only discuss instrumental music here. I will try to minimize the use of the term scale unless I'm quoting others, because the word scale is now used mainly in the context of mode in contemporary music analysis and to analyze the musical compositions. Since we have no access to the music from over 2,000 years ago, we can only analyze the sound produced by the instruments, so use the scale might cause some confusions for today's discussion. For all sounds produced by an instrument, I use the term musical sound system. For example, the musical sound system of the bells of Marquis Yi of Zeng consists of all sounds produced by the bells. Its sound music system comprises 50 sounds. These sounds are arranged from low to high within one octave to form a pitch series. Each position of the pitch series is a pitch class, which we can label as first, second, third, fourth, and so on. If certain interval relationships are formed between the pitch classes, imply a key, such as a pentatonic key, I can use the ancient Chinese terminology to designate them as gong, shang, jue, zhi, yu, means do, re, mi, so, la, and so on. However, within the context of pitch series, we do not have the functional significance of the tonic, dominant, and so on, and so on. Here, I brought the term used by the musicologist Alan Ford to analyze the atonal music. The interval structure with the pitch series largely determines the instrumental capabilities. It serves as a material foundation of the music while also imposing constraints. Thus, we are able to discuss scale in early music until the day we can truly reconstruct the ancient music. This table shows the pitch series about some important bronze bells from Western Zhou dynasty. All the current pitch measurements clearly indicated that the pitch series of the bells from the Western Zhou dynasty only encompass 4 pitch classes, yu, gong, jue, zhi, means la, do, mi, so, which perfectly aligns the record in the traditional Chinese literature. The phenomenon continued from the early to the late Western Zhou dynasty. This is also a case of a 5-piece set bells dated back to the early Western Zhou dynasty, unearthed from the tomb number 111 of Zeng State Cemetery at Yejiashan, Suizhou, Hubei province, discovered in 2013. This is the bird's eye view about tomb number 111 at Yejiashan. The 5 bells are placed here. Notably, 2 of the bells in this set bear the first specific markings about side tone. You can see the markings. Means this bell can produce 2 tones. This is the pitch series of our set bells. There are 2 bells with 2 tones. These bells with 2 tones. So it encompasses just 4 pitch classes: 雨、宫、觉、指、拉、哆、咪、嗦. So, tracing back, we can examine the pitch series about late Shang Dynasty Nao bells. In practical pitch management, the 2 tones often interfered with each other, making it difficult to produce 2 distinct pitches, like full-fledged bells from Western Zhou dynasty. We can see the pitch series of Nao bells from full house tube in the table below. Okay, you can see the table. The Nao bells unearthed from Henan province mainly exhibit perfect fifths and major or minor thirds in their front tones. If there were already such precise chromatic scales existed in the music of Shang Dynasty or even earlier, and the Western Zhou Dynasty had only 4 distinct pitches in their pitch series, then we may need to explain the degradations. Unfortunately, I have not yet come across any scholarly discussion about it. From above observations, we can reasonably assume that the completed appearance about pentatonic pitch series would have occurred no earlier than the late West Zhou dynasty. Why might this be the case? I will offer some possible explanations. Okay. We know a single sound alone cannot constitute the material of music. The most important element about music is the interval, which refers to the relationship between the multiple pitches. So how did people acquire specific harmonic intervals? I believe that during the non-mathematical prehistory, people understanding the interval relationships meaning come from the harmonic series. This is the harmonic series. The harmonic series occurred when the overtone are integer multiples of the fundamental frequency, resulting in the specific pitch series. The harmonic series is a natural phenomenon. When the patrol in the forefront have larger amplitudes, and the intervals are most easily perceived by humans. Scientists believe that the human can perceive up the first 8 patrols. Through perceiving the harmonic series, people become familiar with intervals such as octave, fifths, and thirds, using these harmonic intervals to expand the music sound system. Scholars in ancient music colleges play great importance about mouth organ instrument. Recently, significant discoveries have been made in Chinese archaeology with the mouth organ unearthed in Taosi site in Shanxi and the Shimao site in Shanxi. You can see the 2 instruments, both dating back to the late Longshan period. This type instrument itself can produce accurate harmonic intervals, pure octave, perfect fifths, perfect fourths, major or minor thirds, and even minor sevenths, which are prominent in the harmonic series, are amplified through the resonance about the oral cavity, providing the people of that time a sense of these harmonic intervals. Essentially, we can represent the primary infos about the instrument pitch series from the Shang dynasty to Western Zhou dynasty. Okay, let's take a closer look at the bells unearthed from Yejiashan. This set of bells is actually made up of 3 different types of bells. The number 13 and 18 Yong bells front door created an interval about a minor third, C sharp to E sharp, which are common used in the late Shang dynasty. When the Bo bell is added, it forms a series about zhi yu gong, means so, la, do. The number 7 and 11 Yong bells are markings for side tone. We can consider the 2 tones about the number 7 bell, G sharp to B, as a transposition of the front tones of the number 13 and 18 bells by a perfect fifth interval, while the 2 tones of the number 11 bell, C sharp to E, as a transposition by an octave interval. Essentially, the pitch series of the West Zhou dynasty bell is actually the repetition of the minor third interval at a perfect fifth and octave. I'm guessing that this is likely the important factor for how people selected bronze bells during that time. So, when did the complete pentatonic series first appear on bells? Evidence can be found at the Niuzhong bells unearthed from tomb number 30 in the Guojia Miao Cemetery in Zaoyang, Hubei province in 2015, dating back to the late Western Zhou dynasty about 2,700 years ago. This set of 10 bells added the note shang, means right, to the existing 4 pitches, yu, gong, jue, zhi. So there are do, re, mi, so, la, 5 pitch classes in the pitch series. Some other bells from the same period also began to feature shang, right. In China, the emergence of the complete pentatonic pitch series may be related to the development of string instruments. By adjusting the length of the strings to produce accurate interval relationships, the calculations are simple and easy to grasp. So far, we have not discovered any string instrument earlier than the Western Zhou dynasty period. The earliest string instrument unearthed were in Guojia Miao Cemetery. We found the qin. This is the qin zither. We found the qin and the se. The structure of this qin is actually the same as the unearthed from tomb of Marquis Yi of Zeng. Perhaps it is the appearance of the string instrument that enable people to develop new interval relationships through calculations, thus completing the pentatonic pitch series. This method is similar to pythagorean calculations. During the middle of spring and autumn period, the pitch series of bells began to extend beyond the pentatonic series. Marquis De of Zeng's bell, discovered in 2018, is the primary example. This is the Marquis De of Zeng's bells. This set of 20 bells can accommodate the pentatonic pitch series, both E flat and A flat. Okay. When combining 2 series together, with E flat as gong, means do, F series as shang, means right, and A flat is referred to the yu zeng, means the pitch class is minor third below yu, expressed of the inscriptions on the bells of Marquis Yi of Zeng, representing the new pitch class he, means fa. So this bell, 6 pitch classes, do, re, mi, fa, so, la. You can see the sound system. Let's compare this to the Western world. In ancient ancient Greek music, the tetranders, tetrand chords are referring to the series of 4 continuous notes within the span of perfect fifths in the music theory. Tetrand chords were used to build scale and modes. 2 tetrand chords can be combined in different way to form a complete 7-note scale. For example, the Lydian mode Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Si is a combination about Do, Re, Mi, Fa and Sol, La, Si, Do, which can also be understood as the combination about 2 tetrand chords, where the later is a transposition of the former by a perfect fifth. The interval structure between them remains the same. This principle is actually similar to the method in China at the same time. Finally, let's briefly examine the chromatic pitch series of the bells of Marquis Yi of Zeng. The inscriptions on the bells discuss the varying classes in the same pitch in different yun, all of which are determined by an absolutely pitch, means lü in China. Yun is a term about traditional Chinese music theory, as it's not a concept of mode scale. In fact, it refers to the key of the instrument. For example, we may say that the clarinet is in the key of B flat. Note of each yun have 7 pitches, which with a whole tone interval between the 3rd and the 4th pitch classes, and a semitone between the 4th and the 5th pitch class. Chinese musicologists refer to this as 雅乐 scale, means 雅乐音阶. But it should notice that the term scale here does not have the meaning of the mode scale. Through different yun combinations within 1 octave, there are 12 sheng. Here, sheng refers to the pitch class. The foundation of the 12 pitches remains the 5 regular pitch classes, 正声, means 宫商角徵羽, do, re, mi, sol, la, with other classes marked by the prefix 变 or some suffixes 符, 角, or 增. Whether using the pentagram toning or just the intonation, the relationship between these 12 pitches cannot be mathematically equal. It was not until the Ming Dynasty that Zhu Zaiyu calculated the 12-tone equal temperament. However, from the bell's inscription, we are not sure whether the theorist whoever designed the pitches and wrote the inscription were aware of the 2 differences about the temperament. As long as a particular pitch roughly fits different yun, it can be considered to be suitable. Its mathematical accuracy is not crucial. Whatever, based on the inscriptions themselves, the theorists of that time might have already aware the difference between different toning music systems. Yet, this was not really a problem, because the equal temperament in the inscription was not for mathematical pitch frequencies, but for practice term. In fact, for music practice, the different modulation was never from mathematical calculations, but rather from the limitation about the instrument's performance and the performer's skills. This is an additional point I would like to add to Professor Begley's point. Now, I would like to summarize some simple conclusions. The first, for the early music, we cannot discuss pitch series focused on the instruments rather than discuss the mode scale on musical compositions. Traditional music instruments such as bronze bells and stone-chimed provide excellent material for the discussion, the development about ancient pitch series, and Mr. Huang Xiangpeng's articles in 1970s remains a good starting point for our next research. Second, pitches in the music emerged one by one through a long period. The third, before the late Western Zhou period, the main interval relationships in the music were octave, fifths, major or minor thirds, with precision about harmonic series possibly being most important way for humans to perceive these relationships. Tamatomo Kurosawa said, instrument taught humans music. The emergence about instrumental music preceded vocal music. The fourth, string instruments are fully developed in the late West Zhou dynasty, and through the calculation of the string length, the complete pentatonic pitch series appears. The last one, the bells of Marquis Yi often represent the highly rational achievement about the warm state period. Its chromatic pitch series has already embodied the idea of equal temperament in practice and concept, even though it may not be mathematically equal. That's all. Thanks very much.
Could you explain how the bells were tempered? Because when a bell comes out of a foundry, it isn't usually perfectly tempered in terms of the tone. I'm talking about tuning of bells.
Okay, so they were carved inside of the bell to make the right sound, if that's the question. Yeah, they kind of scratch it to make it thinner or thicker to make the perfect pitch. It's gonna be a lot of like trying before the final sound.
What's the relationship between music and power, and why was it so important to be buried with bells?
Okay. So bell can only be used in the ancient China among the aristocratic ranking people. Yeah, so if you use a bell, that means you have power. Okay. Okay. Also, the combination of the bells, like for Marquis Yi, he has a really big bell set. That means he's really high ranking, and the more the bells there are, his ranking is higher. So the higher the ranking is, the more the bells are. Sorry.
Thank you. China has been ahead of almost everything. We all have the list of what China invented. But did China export the beauty of the bells to its neighbors, maybe Korea or Japan? Were the neighbors receptive to the sophistication of these bells?
Okay, we haven't seen any of that in the ancient bronze, like in the ancient bronze bells. No. Okay.
I was wondering if there were any compositions that were recorded on the bells or on other materials, ancient compositions.
I don't think so. I think there's only like modern composition of the ancient bells. But you guys are all welcome to come to Hubei Provincial Museum. We have a specific concert that is played by his set bells.
Is it accurate to say that the bells have never been able to be replicated with current technology?
You mean to make the perfect sound?
Yes.
Actually, we do have several replicas right now. Oh. Yeah, and one of them is being played, as I mentioned, in the concert in our museum. So they're actually using the replica of the bells to play the modern sounds. Okay.
this is a jade question.
Yeah, it is a Jade question. Hi, Colin. I don't know how to pronounce your last name correctly, so I call you Colin. I'm wondering how to wear the jade correctly. Do you know?
Well,
particularly the longest one.
there are sometimes the jades are found in tombs that are not totally disturbed in a particular relationship with each other. And we assume that most of them are pendants and that they were hung and strung together with silk cords. And then occasionally you get tomb figures in wood, painted wood tomb figures from the state of Chu. I can think of at least two that show these strands of pendants hung together. They don't show the most sophisticated groupings of jades. For instance, the pairs of dragon pendants from the tomb of the Marquis Yi, they must have somehow been separated so they were hung side by side. And of course, the wearing of jade pendants in real life was absolutely crucial signal of your status. And in fact, there are mentions in Confucian texts that talk about the gentleman, the junzi, should never be without his jades. But in many of the tombs, the tombs have been disorganized, and so we're not quite sure how they were hung together. And they were actually also combined with other materials occasionally, these glass beads, small glass beads, one or two of which are in the exhibition. So it wasn't purely jade, but clearly jade was the most important material.